Hello, hello.
I've just realised I haven't got my microwave.
Microwave.
Wait,
Microwave.
literally, as I said it, I meant microphone.
I knew what she meant. It's all right.
This, this is gonna be fun. How long have I been away for? What's
Too
going?
long.
What have we been doing? What's my name?
What's what's my name again? What's my name again? Hi,
What's
you
my,
should tell people your name. This is Jacqueline, not
I'm
me.
Jacqueline. Hello.
And I'm Lauren. I'm Lauren, and we are mother-daughter duo.
Yeah.
Currently recording from home because we are in the middle of an extremely busy life.
Mm,
So
there
we
is.
thought better to show up. Yeah, it is an understatement. It is an
Yes,
understatement.
it is, and this is a podcast, um, about being women in the world at the minute. And how important it is to know that you matter. So if you're just joining us today, if it's your first one you've ever listened to, hiya. We do what is known, I think, fondly in our world as a bit of cackling.
The witch's cackle.
And also sharing, don't we? We talk about what matters to us, and also the bigger picture of, understanding why it matters and why women seem to forget sometimes that they matter.
Yeah.
And what it's all about. And for anyone that's watching, because if you do, because we do often put these on YouTube. Look, your screen was going mad then, wasn't it?
Yeah, I've just un-auto framed myself.
So it's a good job. Actually, I was just looking at that out the side of my eye and I was thinking about what I was going to say. So today,
Yes, today, well, actually, you're listening to this on Tuesday, the 19th of May. If you're listening as someone who listens when these drop, and the reason we're currently doing this on Zoom and not going to our usual podcast studio is because Mother is a jet setter.
that feels like quite an overstatement.
Well, I don't think so. Not this month. I think she's spending. Wait, let me work it out. 3 times as many days away from home as home.
Yes. I think in the whole of May, I'm here for 8 days.
Yeah. And specifically last week was a really exciting part of that. So please tell people where you went.
Oh, so tonight, Matthew.
I know that too.
Last week, I had the privilege of winning. This is important. Winning a place on a business retreat in France. Couple of hours outside of Bordeaux. Oh my gosh, the most beautiful setting. And I went along and was part of a group of 11 women who'd all gone on the retreat. There were 2 speakers, and then there was also Karen, who was the host. And we were being hosted at her chateau in France, which was as gorgeous as it sounds.
Oh, just dreaming it.
Yeah, when you arrive somewhere and you're like, wow, the setting could not have been more perfect for what we needed. Great big open spaces, but it felt comfortable, it felt inviting. Yeah, so it was, and that's where I've been. So I headed off early hours. I can't believe this time last week I was on an aeroplane. Headed off early hours on a couple of trains. And yeah, I feel I had a lot of space around me. Which I think probably that was something that I needed to be thinking about. But yeah, it's been, I know we're going to talk about it here because you invited me, didn't you, to talk about what I'd experienced and how it was. And it just...
And because we haven't had a chance to catch up about it properly.
So are we in a podcast so you know what went on?
Yeah, this is the team.
So you're going to find it out as everybody else finds it out, because you're right. I feel like I didn't have as much opportunity actually to come out of that world and come into a different one. I think, well, and there was a very good reason for that, and that is the women in the group. It was divine. It feels like it's been a very long time for me to be immersed in a world like that. One, to have the space around me To be able to kind of step back, to be me, to be Jacqueline, to kind of listen, just be, with all of these other women. And what was incredible was what's happened in terms of the relationship. So I can feel, as I'm saying it to you, my head is seeing these people and naming them in my head of the people that just made such a massive difference to me over that week, and how quickly it happened. I literally walked into one of the restaurants in Luton Airport and clicked with somebody and then clicked with the group, and we all started chatting, and it just felt like, yeah, it felt right. Like I'd been nervous. I think I was nervous. I was nervous because I'd won it, which feels like it puts you in a little bit of a different position to somebody that's paid for it. And they're going. I had some thoughts in my head about what I wanted to get from it. But I think more than anything, it was about identity. I think it was about who I am in what I do, which I know we've talked a little bit about. And actually, that's gone out in the world today. Oh, yesterday, by the time people are listening to this, in terms of being a little bit more specific about, who I am and what I do. And I think, yeah, for me, it was just this space where I needed to sit with that. It was all right that I'd won it. It was all right. I didn't have to earn my place anymore. Got there. Is what I really sat with on the way there. And these women just, yeah, blew my mind. With just, they never saw me as anybody any different. And I've written some things down about, because I know we were chatting, what did I take from it? And I really felt like that was important. So because there was this acceptance, and I've written there, I felt seen, I felt heard. I also felt held, because there were times I got emotional. There were times, it was really kind of like thinking about things and recognizing things. And I also felt celebrated, which, how often do you get that opportunity with a room full of women? I can just see it now, the laughter, the but also being there for each other and wanting to hear each other's, what people were stuck with or what they wanted to change. And there were so many moments where I could resonate with everybody's experiences and, what was happening for them. And that in itself, one takes away from any isolation, because you suddenly think, oh my God, it's not just me. But also the power of that, when you hear other people's stories, of, showing you what's possible, which has always been something that's been within me. And I know that it ebbs and flows. So sometimes it's not quite as strong as I would like it to be. And that's quite normal. But yeah, it is the power of being in a room with other women, whether that's virtual or, it's in real life. And now it's interesting, because now I could go on virtually with any of them, and I feel like I know them. Which is making me think about, what I need to do going forward, in terms of, people meeting and exploring on things that we do, any offers that we do. It's making me think about the importance of that, actually getting to know people first, not just diving straight into something, finding more. And that might not be able to be possible to do that in person. It is the importance of getting to know people. And for me, just to be Jacqueline. As well. So, yeah.
I really hear that back when you sort of were talking about being on the way there, and having to sit with that thought of like, I belong at this table, and then to get there and realize that all of these other women who were there also have those like thoughts of, do I belong at this table? And it's so interesting, isn't it? Because logistically, if anybody were to fly a drone over and look at all of you sat around that table, they probably all would look at you all and think, well, these fucking successful women, I'll never be one of them, or this kind of thing. So then how powerful it is to sit and go, hang on, Jackie, who we know is inspirational and chatty and all this kind of stuff, also has these moments of, what am I supposed to do? And, so do these other people at the table who, they've got great businesses and all this income and all of these experiences, and still have those moments of, what the fuck am I doing here? And I think it's so powerful.
Why? Tell me what makes it so powerful for you? What strikes you about it?
I think what you said a second ago, because, You let in close and said, I'm not the only one. I think people underestimate that part of the self-compassion.
Mm.
I think you know, I think as humans we swing backwards and forwards between either thinking everyone does it one way, or I must be the only person who does it this way because I'm the only person who could possibly feel this scared or bad or impostery or whatever it is. And I think when you see that there's a big thing at the minute, isn't there? And I've kind of chatted about it a few times about this overcoming imposter syndrome, as though it's a hurdle that you step over and then it's finished. But actually, I think that's just an incorrect way of phrasing it. I think it's very much learning how to take it along with you, how to keep going anyway. You know, we've all got it in our backpack. And sometimes for some people, it's just a tiny little pebble that doesn't make any difference. And for some of us, it's a lot bigger. But it's learning to say yes, to go out there anyway, to sit with the people who you might think are out of your league or whatever, to realize that they're not.
Actually, you're making me think about belonging there. Because what was happening for me while you were saying that, and the whole thing about, you know, taking it with you, rather than it being a hurdle, is that whole bit about how, and fascinatingly, because let's just be really clear here, because if anybody has been looking at social media, even though this is Tuesday that they're all listening to it, they will see that I was talking about eldest daughters yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is really important because I had a bit of an epiphany, didn't I, about being in that space. And pretty much everyone was an eldest daughter. And I went to bed that night, you know, pretty late, been having some great conversations, and woke up at about 6 o'clock in the morning and tried to go back to sleep because my brain was going, "Down, wake up, wake up, wake up, write this down, write this down. This feels important." I was like, for God's sake, thank God I've got a note and a book and a pen next to me. So I wrote down eldest daughters in the middle of it. Because I was like, actually, if I think about it, I think most of my clients are eldest daughters. And I think they've taken responsibility. And I think this whole thing about imposter syndrome, you know, when you're an eldest daughter, you know, actually that validation, that, you know, understanding what it is that you've done, because when you've got to push your needs back all the time, because that's for me, I think that's a lot about being an eldest daughter, or being the one that has to step up and act in that way, that you push everything about you in the background, so you don't see yourself like other people, you know, whilst you are competent, and because you're constantly striving to prove that you're good enough. It's that, so it's this real kind of thing. So like, actually stepping over it loses a part of you, this part of you that's like, have I got my place here? And when you were talking about belonging and talking about common humanity, which is what you were saying, I'm not the only one that feels like it. I suddenly stood in that room and I thought, oh, actually, the more that I belong to myself, the more that I understand it's okay to be me. And what these women are showing me is it's okay. It's all right that I'm not at your level yet. It's all right that actually I'm maybe not doing exactly what you're doing. I'm doing what I'm doing, and that's okay. And what you're showing me is there's room for me to grow. And that, I think that whole thing for me, that's what that felt like. It was like, it wasn't, you know, because I can see the nervousness in me on my way there. You know, I had a real moment just to show that I, you know, still live all of this stuff, but actually this is about having a flexible nervous system that is able to recognize, is the state I'm in really useful for what I need, and how do I use it? Because I don't know if you remember, I messaged you on the Monday morning, you guys in our family group, because everyone was asking me how I was getting on, and I'd got the train down to Kettering, and at this point I now have to swap across to a different platform. Now my app had told me I had 8 minutes from my train coming in from Nottingham and being able to then get on the next train. Thing was, there was 5 minutes, it said, for me to go from one platform to the other, which was a slight exaggeration, I will say, but thank you for that. Only to realise that our train from Nottingham was already running late. And you would think that there was a tiger chasing me. I get in the lift, it just arrived straight away. It was meant to be. straight to the top. And as I'm on the bridge on the way over, I can feel my heart is racing, feel it. And I was like, I literally in my head thought, oh my God, it's like being chased by a tiger. Because I was like, I need to get on this train because I knew I had a plane to catch. And I think I messaged you, didn't I? Yeah, me and the tiger in the lift. But in that moment, I was like, oh, this is because this matters. This is because it's important. This is because I don't want to miss everything. I get why I've gone into like this. Come on, come on. I'm really kind of fighting. I need this energy because that was the thing then. But what I did was I harnessed it. So instead of being like, oh, fight or flight, I went, let's use it. So I just made sure I stayed nice and clear. This is what I needed to do. And I was there before the train arrived. And I think that's the bit, isn't it? It's like actually even noticing those things as I was arriving and then realizing I do sit within these women and it's okay to be me. And I didn't need to pretend to be somebody else. You know, all of that helped with what you're calling imposter syndrome, because suddenly I was like, yeah, I'm not an imposter in this room.
Mm.
Actually, what I am is someone else, yeah, who's got stuff to learn. And I've proven to myself in the past that I can. I've shown myself that I can. And that was really quite spectacular to come home with, because it changed. It was being able to see that change in the way that I felt.
Mm.
And that I had power over that I didn't have to stay with this one way of looking at it, which I might have done in the past. You know, do I belong here? Is it, do I fit in? And actually, it wasn't even about fitting in. It was about realizing it was just okay to be at where I was. It was okay to be me. And that meant then, so for me, that meant that I was more chatty. I laughed a lot. I did cry. You know, there was a couple of moments that I got emotional, but I think all of that kind of feeling, and you're right. I love what you've just said there about kind of taking it with you. It's like it doesn't have to be something that I step over and leave behind. That part of me, you know, cares for me, wants the very best for me. It's just the way that it's showing up isn't going to be the thing by keeping me small, keeping me kind of like, you know, ooh, let's not. Whereas actually, I'm like, no, we don't need that. Step into this and see, and what can I learn? Because I think that's the thing. I think where it's been a challenge for me at times is when I've got into a situation like that and I have thought, you know, I don't belong here, or God, how do I fit in? Almost like it feels like I've got to pretend to be something that I'm not. There's the performance. What that does for me though is it keeps me in this place where I'm not open to learning. I miss things. You know, I'm not as intuitive. I'm not thinking about actually what matters to me. I don't say things out loud that matter to me. So that's really what made a difference there.
Yeah. It's really interesting, actually. I keep having this conversation about performance with one of my friends, Cal. Words hurt copy, if you're interested in a copywriter or a theme expert. That was like a little advert in the middle, wasn't it?
Well, I know. Recall.
Talking about performance, because obviously their entire brand is based on performance. And, you know, we've been having a lot of chats recently about the idea that performance in itself isn't the issue. Performing as something else in order to hide from who you truly are is the issue, you know. And that I think, and we've talked about it before, where, you know, and not with judgment, where you can see it in people where there's like a face that they wear or something because they're trying to hide what's really going on underneath. And I feel like you can kind of feel it from people. So if you had to end up in that place of performing someone else's script, that's why you feel so shut off, isn't it? Because it's like, well, I can't deviate. Whereas when you turn up to perform as yourself, the improvisation, the spontaneity and all of that is there for you to just be yourself. I love that. What this is, I can't believe I'm asking this question now after you've come back. What was the purpose of the retreat? Like,
oh, go on.
Like as in, you know, the person who was Karen, who was what's the word? Marketing. Goodness gracious. Marketing it. Hello, menopause. Yeah, what were they saying to people was going to happen while they were there?
So this was about the fact that it wasn't all about strategy and planning. Actually, the bigger thing was about, so it was called Biohack Your Business.
Biohack your business. There you
It
go.
was about being able to look at yourself and really figure out what was going on for you. So two of the things that happened very excitedly on the first day, we were introduced to these two very lovely people. Louise, who was described as a magician. She's got a trauma-informed background. She, works with the nervous system, all of those kind of things that I fully understood. And she was coming because she's Karen's actual coach. So that's who we got to meet. And we then met, so that was on the morning, and then on the afternoon we met Liz. So again, this whole thing about being able to work with your nervous system and about using practices that would make a difference. So we talked about the nervous system on the morning with Louise. We did some really beautiful exercises about connection and things like that. We also, looked at future self stuff. So some of the things that you'd understand as, the wiser world self. So we did some of that in a different format. And once we'd done this connection, I've got to tell you, the connection part was beautiful to be able to, look, because I think we live in a world where we don't genuinely look people in the eye and kind of sit with them. And I think I've done that in the past more because I did the counselling, but also, you want to make sure people feel comfortable for that level of it. But for 30 seconds, we stared into each other's eyes. I know, and that's not your thing. And it wasn't a lot. Actually, a lot of people's, but do you know what? It was pretty powerful what people were noticing in each other. And then to give that feedback to each other. And then in the afternoon, we went and we did some breath work, which again, pretty spectacular. And I did fall asleep, which obviously. Yeah. And I said, amazing. Katie, I had Katie and Jay either side of me. And energy from Jay. Just on that note, to feel this sense of this woman who'd been before, because 2 or 3 of the people had been, maybe more than that actually, maybe about a quarter, had been on retreats with Karen before, and then some of us were brand new. But I knew that what was coming after the breath of the work was to go into an ice plunge. There were 2 special pods that we were now going to go and sit in, full of ice water. And again, that whole thing about, the cold water exposure, the impact on being able to take control of what's going on, and things like that as well. So it just was amazing. And Jay, I could feel she was excited. I could feel it. She was excited for it. And we just, after we'd done the breath work, which was brilliant, and just again, learning to kind of, manage what was going on and, how we were feeling in that moment, how to control these states that we get into and what you can do to become more flexible with it. She turned to me and Liz actually commented on the whole group. Normally she asks people to give each other a hug after we've done that kind of work. She didn't need to ask it. All of us turned to each other and just hugged. And that's literally what happened. Yeah, it was just this feeling of being in something together. So this idea that you and I love that because, that opportunity just to understand a little bit more about yourself, to get a real image of where it is and vision of where it is that you're going on that first day, understand, what state you're in, understand then, more about how to control it through breath work, through, the cold water. And I did, which was fascinating. And I know I've done cold water stuff before, but again, being in a group, having that kind of feeling that you're going to go and do it, was really interesting. And I've got to say, I shook. And it took me a little bit, it took me about 30 seconds before I felt like I had control of my breath. But then just that long, because I do that, I do use my breath, to bring myself back in, to feel like I'm more in control, to understand what I need to do next. So actually that worked. And to be able to do that, felt amazing. And there was space around things, which was lovely. So a little bit of space to be able to journal or write things down or just go and take a little bit of time on your own. But that day, was really about you as a human being. Because what is a business without you as a human being, if when you start looking at it? And then we went into 2 days that were full of every single one of us having an hour where we could talk about, where we were stuck. or what we needed to focus on next. And Karen had given us, 3 really great questions to choose from, which was the one for us, and what did we want to take a look at.
Brilliant. Oh my goodness. Wow. Well, I love all of that. And I love that. I know that we've talked before about, I looked actually once, was it Mother's Day? I don't fucking know. About getting you an ice bath. An inflatable one. You get like it's like a big inflatable barrel.
I am going to have one.
Yeah, I think when we move in together, what about, dear listener, you're in on the secret. What about we get Dad to build us a sauna and a cold plunge?
He could do that, actually.
I know he could. And I said,
that combination of the two would be really good, because there's a lot about that. But yeah, I think in the meantime, I definitely would invest in a little tub.
Ooh, definitely.
I was talking to Liz about it, and she's not far from the beach, but she was saying she still has a tub outside, because actually the getting up, the getting sorted, the going to the beach is something that she doesn't, sometimes she'll
It's another barrier. Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas actually it's there.
How many barriers can you remove?
It's like, let me just get in.
It's directly here.
Yeah. And the difference that it makes. And it is
amazing.
That thing again of mastery, that I think that was and I'm going to be really straight. I spoke to her about it because of the, the complex trauma and the things that I'd experienced. And I just wanted to make sure, was it sensible for me to be able to do it? That kind of thing. But again, that for me, after that morning showed, I was listening to myself. I was listening to my own gut. And I think that's getting stronger and stronger in terms of what is it, that matters.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So, I mean, there's so many things already there. I also know that there was a cheeky secret wine tasting, which you couldn't get involved in because we don't do the beverages.
Honestly, to have a good smell.
I'd have been huffing those wine glasses. I'd have been well in it. But in fairness, your elderflower did look really cute.
Was it beautiful? And I love the fact that actually Karen had thought about that. On that note, I do want to just mention as well, because on the final night when we had champagne, I was still was able to partake because there was alcohol free. And also we were, another thing, just even to mention, we were beautifully looked after, food wise. There was the most amazing lady called Kerry who'd come in to cook for us specially. And there were a couple of us gluten intolerant. So she just, made sure that there was always things for us. And I've still not done it, but I've got to tell you, I had chocolate mousse made with avocado. It was divine.
Have you seen the egg one?
No, not yet.
Yeah, it's like 6 boiled eggs. I'll have to find it for you. And the people who do the, like testing the viral hack so you don't have to thing, all do it. And I it doesn't taste like egg.
Ooh, interesting.
I know. Can you imagine? Because it'd be super protein heavy, which would be great for us as women in the menopause.
So I feel like it was just this big package of things that just
so many things.
And made such a difference.
What do you think, like looking at the whole week and where you are now, what do you think your biggest thing that you've taken away from it is? Oh, she's got cheeky face on.
I said something to you this morning about thanking you for the way in which you stepped in when maybe my brain wasn't braining.
I was like, what?
But I quite like that you don't know what I'm going to say. I think the word that just kept showing up for me was ownership of my business, of this part that I run. And that actually, even before I went to the retreat, things had begun to kind of, I don't know whether settle or just coming back to me. Like, I'm going to use my own word, restoring this, this memory of what I've experienced and what I've done. And actually being on the retreat, I was reminded that I've got a background in counselling, that I have far more experience. It's not just the coaching, that I've got 10 years of learning and development, that I've got a package of things that I've done that all form part of who I am. And I think some of that was because you've been, back in positive intelligence. So I've been kind of looking at things again with you, alongside of you. And I think it's that real seeing who I am and understanding what I can offer. So this ownership of, being able to look at what makes me excited about what I do. And that moment, like I said, when I woke up and I was like, that eldest daughters, eldest daughters, because that's me, that's you.
And we've spoken about that, like, interestingly, a couple of weeks ago. I don't know when it'll have gone out. We had an eldest daughter chat, actually, where we talked about the overlapping, and it was that recently that we started to sort of percolate on that, I suppose. So it was nice that was in, I guess that was the seed that sprouted on the retreat.
Yeah, because I think that this is the thing. I think actually that's such a good metaphor. I think I stepped into that retreat with a lot of things in my head already. Like, you know, so being able to stand more firmly in who I am and what I offer, being able to understand, you know, what this is all about. And I think for people, it's almost like we feel like we have to have the answer straight away, or things need to be sorted or done. And I think it is more nuanced than that. You know, it's an unfurling infinite to use this as an explanation to somebody. Somebody had asked me a question and I was like, oh no, I feel like life's one big game of catchphrase. And they were like,
I fucking love catchphrase.
Well, exactly. And I was like, I mean, obviously you'd have more boxes than there are on the telly. I said, but like, if you think about catchphrase, the whole point is you answer the questions in between to get a go at the jackpot. And then you press the button and now one of the boxes like reveals. That was the word I was looking for. Reveals, and then you're asked to see what you're looking at. Now, how many times when they're trying to win that jackpot do people throw out answers because they think this is what it is, but they've not got enough of it to be able to see it fully? And I don't know. There's just something about that when I feel this sense that, like, I've got this massive one in front of me. In fact, what I'm laughing at is the fact that, you know, when on Zoom, when you have a lot of people on the screen in front of you, it feels more like that. There's all these little boxes. And like every single time I go through something, I press another button and another little box reveals and I go, oh, it's that. But I think that's the bigger picture. And actually I'll take until the end of my life to be, you know, revealing boxes and little snippets of things.
Yeah.
That just feels comforting. It's like there's more to reveal. There's more to understand. There's more to look at. There's more to add, learn, whatever, you know, and as I'm doing this, as I'm exploring, like I understand more. I understand the reason why having won it, that made a difference to me, and I didn't let it rule my life. And I think that's some of the things right now that really matter. This thing about ownership, you know, that would have been really easy for me to go, oh no, I've been terrible and I've let Lauren make some decisions. Whereas actually, I'm like, well, no, it makes complete sense where I've been, and actually, you know, that whole part about me now going, and right, this is what I would really love. This is what I want to do. It's really quite exciting to see it like that.
I need to tell you a secret about catchphrase. When I was younger, I used to watch catchphrase in our living room. And then when Sarah and Julia would come downstairs, I'd put it on Channel 4+1. And pretend I knew all the answers.
Wow. when your sisters come up, they'll be like, what? I mean, that's
what like, Lauren, you're so good at this. Sometimes
genius and devious.
I know. Sometimes I'd like let one or two boxes go so I didn't look like I was being too overzealous. And then I'd be like, oh, I think it's this. And then it would be, and they'd be like, how did you get that? And I was like, I'm just really clever. Mom. Yeah, anyway, that was me.
I've got no words.
I love revealing stuff like this now that I'm a grown up.
Yeah, I do as well. Sometimes. It's that wasn't about me, that was about your sisters. So
yeah, that wasn't bad.
No, it's not. But yeah, it does actually make sense. Like feeling bit. And I think how many of us have got that? You know, the more we kind of understand a bit about ourselves and bring the compassion, because I think this is the missing component. You know, the more things were being revealed to me, the more people around that room were seeing things about themselves, the more actually, you know, they were able to get that support in that moment. I think this is where community in that sense matters. As you're going through these things. Because, you know, to be in a room with other people that are nodding their head and you're like, oh, it's not just me. Or Oh, I remember feeling like that as well.
Mm.
Makes a difference. It really does.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because it's like, you know, if you're in a room, I used to tutor. I used to tutor physics to both A level and GCSE, and sitting in a room with one kid who doesn't get it, and they're just like, "Oh, well, I just don't get it." It's very different to sitting in a room full of kids who go, "Hang on, can you explain that a bit deeper?" Because then it's like, oh, okay, there's another way to come about that. And trying to explain that to people is sometimes quite tricky. Whereas when you're in a community, even if you're not, you know, specifically learning from someone else's problem, or maybe you don't even have the same problem as them, seeing that someone else has an issue just shows you that reality that actually all of us do, doesn't it?
Yeah, and that gives right. So fascinating as you were talking there. Oh, I could see things popping in my head because it's like, you know, if it's just me, potentially this is where a little bit of shame can come in. You know,
Mm.
it depending on who I am and, you know, oh, I don't get it. I'm not good enough, all of that kind of thing. You sat in a room and other people are going, oh, actually, I don't get it. You're like, oh, it's not just me. It's like it alleviates that. The other thing is if somebody does get it in the room, but they're sat in a room full of people, they now have the opportunity to add value, to
Mm.
feel valued. Because, oh my gosh, if I could explain it to you and you get it, it's like this mutual value that we give each other. You know,
Also, there's a massive thing that shows teaching people something is the best way to learn it. Like, and there's loads of studies that show that.
glad it's now not just me who pauses for a moment. Please, dear listener, does anybody else have those moments where you pause because actually the word that you want to use is gone out?
I feel like a fucking skipping record, but it's not. I just the little Laurens inside my brain are like rifling through the filing cabinets, going, "I know it's in here somewhere. It begins with S."
Yeah. At least yours know which letter they're looking in. Sometimes I go in and mine just look at the cabinet and go,
A cabinet of curiosities. Oh my goodness.
not even to know which one that I need to go.
Oh.
It is. I think it's that. I think just, you know, that sense of community feeling. And that was the beauty of this, because actually throughout those strategy sessions, there were moments where people could offer
Mm.
if that's what had been asked for. You know, you
Yeah.
got a chance to think for yourself, but equally, you know, you were in a room of people. And one of the most beautiful things was the conversations kept going. So you
Yeah.
didn't have that while you sat over food. You know, you could think about more things. And, you know, we weren't all coaches. You know, people had different creative like businesses or, you know, different things that they were doing. So it was just, again, really incredible to get all these different perspectives and, you know, stories and understandings. And feel part of it.
Mm. Oh, I'm so glad you had such a good time. And well, I was going to say I'm glad you're back, but you're fucking not. You're off again tomorrow to do training and facilitation. So I'll just spend 6 weeks of this quarter on my own. Don't you worry. Jack Satar.
In fairness, that has been, yes, it was a week of training down, wasn't it? Then off to France. Literally back for a couple of days, which is what I'm in now. I've washed. That was the first thing I did. Sorted myself
Her
out.
clothes, not herself, because she does that all the
Yeah,
time.
I do. And yes, back up now. I'm up north
Yes.
to go and do a little bit more and do
Yeah.
again things that I love, because it's talking about people being people and leadership.
Mm.
And, you know, a big thing, just actually, this is what I love about our brains, because that's just come into my head that Karen had said, because this is about self-leadership. That's ultimately what, you know, the retreat really focused on, was how we lead ourselves and what are the best ways in which we can do that.
Amazing. Well, thank you for sharing. Thank you for dropping the tea. Yeah. And thank you all for joining us and listening to us. You can follow along on any of the platforms that you're listening to us on. You can drop in on Instagram or Facebook or wherever it is that you found us. Even Threads now, if you've got the messaging on there, just to let us know your thoughts or ask any questions if you've got any questions about the retreat or anything that Mum's been talking about. And we will see you next week.
We will, and most definitely. You take care.
Oh my goodness. See you next week for the 52nd episode of The Blondes Know You Matter.
So that'll be
A year.
One whole year and celebrating.
Whole year.
Amazing. Right, tune in.
Love you. Bye.